Bikers harass a woman alone on the road, the shocking truth about her stuns them. The rumble of motorcycle engines echoed across the barren highway, shattering the eerie silence of the desert landscape. The Forsaken Riders, a notorious gang of bikers, rode in tight formation, their chrome-plated machines gleaming under the unforgiving sun. They were the undisputed rulers of this stretch of road, feared by all who dared to cross their path. At the head of the pack rode Raven, the club president, his eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses, his face etched with scars that told stories of a life lived on the edge. Behind him, his loyal followers rode, each one a hardened outlaw with a reputation for violence and intimidation. As they thundered down the highway, a lone figure caught Raven's eye. It was a woman, her long dark hair billowing in the wind as she rode her motorcycle with a steady hand. Raven signaled to his men, and they quickly surrounded her, their engines roaring like a pack of hungry wolves. The woman, Sophia, showed no sign of fear as the bikers closed in on her. Her eyes remained fixed on the road ahead, her expression calm and focused. Raven pulled up alongside her, his mouth twisted into a cruel sneer. Well, what do we have here?" he taunted, his voice dripping with menace. "A pretty little thing like you shouldn't be out here all alone." Sophia ignored him, her gaze never wavering from the horizon. Raven's men laughed, their voices rising above the wind, their eyes glinting with malice. "Maybe we should teach her a lesson," one of them called out, revving his engine threateningly. But Sophia remained unfazed, her hands steady on the handlebars, her posture relaxed and poised. Raven felt a flicker of unease, a sense that there was more to this woman than met the eye. As they rode on, the tension mounting with every mile, a figure appeared on the horizon, a lone rider approaching from the opposite direction. As he drew closer, the Forsaken Riders fell silent, their eyes widening in disbelief. It was Gabriel, the legendary biker who had disappeared years ago, leaving behind a legacy of justice and honor. His name was spoken in whispers, a symbol of everything the Forsaken Riders despised. Raven felt a chill run down his spine as Gabriel rode towards them, his eyes blazing with a fierce intensity. He knew that a reckoning was coming, and that nothing would ever be the same again. Gabriel pulled up alongside Sophia, his presence commanding instant respect from the Forsaken Riders. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man with a weathered face and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through to the soul. His motorcycle was a custom-built machine, sleek and powerful, a testament to his skill as a rider and a mechanic. Raven felt a surge of anger as he watched Gabriel exchange a few quiet words with Sophia. Who did this outsider think he was, interfering with their business? He revved his engine, signaling to his men to close ranks around the two riders. But Gabriel was not intimidated. He turned to face Raven, his expression calm and unreadable. "I suggest you back off," he said, his voice low and steady. "This woman is under my protection now." Raven laughed, a harsh, grating sound that echoed across the desert. "And who the hell are you?" he demanded, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. "My name is Gabriel," the rider replied, his gaze never wavering from Raven's face. "And I'm here to remind you of what true strength looks like." The Forsaken Riders shifted uneasily, their hands tightening on their handlebars. They had heard the stories about Gabriel, the legendary biker who had taken on entire gangs single-handedly and emerged victorious. Some said he was a ghost, a figure from another time who had returned to set things right. Raven hesitated, torn between his desire to assert his dominance and the growing sense of unease that Gabriel's presence inspired. He knew that he was treading on dangerous ground, but his pride would not let him back down. "We don't take orders from anyone," he snarled, his voice thick with menace. "Especially not from some washed-up old-timer who thinks he can play the hero." Gabriel smiled, a cold, humorless smile that sent a shiver down Raven's spine. "Then I guess we'll have to settle this the old-fashioned way," he said, his hand resting lightly on the hilt of the knife that hung at his belt. Raven swallowed hard, his mouth suddenly dry. He knew that he was outmatched, that Gabriel was not a man to be trifled with. But he also knew that backing down now would mean losing face in front of his men, and that was a price he was not willing to pay. "Fine," he said, his voice tight with anger. "We'll settle this, old man." But don't think for a second that you're going to walk away from this in one piece. Gabriel just nodded, his eyes glinting with a fierce, unwavering determination. And with that, the stage was set for a confrontation that would change the lives of everyone involved, forever. As the sun began to dip towards the horizon, casting long shadows across the barren landscape, the Forsaken Riders and Gabriel faced off, their motorcycles idling in a tense standoff. Sophia watched from the sidelines, her expression unreadable, her eyes fixed on Gabriel's back. Raven was the first to make a move. With a roar of his engine, he charged towards Gabriel, his fist raised in a brutal swing. But Gabriel was ready for him. He sidestepped the blow with lightning speed, his own fist connecting with Raven's jaw in a sickening crunch. The other bikers surged forward, their eyes blazing with fury. But Gabriel was a force to be reckoned with. He moved like a ghost, his movements fluid and precise, his strikes devastating in their accuracy. One by one, the Forsaken Riders fell, their bodies crumpling to the ground like rag dolls. Raven struggled to his feet, his face a mask of blood and bruises. He stared at Gabriel in disbelief, his eyes wide with fear and confusion. "Who are you?" he croaked, his voice thick with pain. Gabriel regarded him coldly, his eyes glinting with a fierce intensity. "I am the Reckoning," he said, his voice low and steady. "I am the one who will show you the error of your ways." With a final, crushing blow, Gabriel sent Raven sprawling to the ground, his body limp and unmoving. The other bikers watched in stunned silence, their faces etched with fear and awe. Gabriel turned to Sophia, his expression softening. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice gentle. Sophia nodded, her eyes shining with gratitude. "I am now," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the desert in a deep, inky darkness, Gabriel and Sophia rode off into the night, leaving the Forsaken Riders to lick their wounds and contemplate the harsh lesson they had just learned. But the story was far from over. For Raven and his men, the true reckoning was yet to come. In the days that followed, word of Gabriel's victory over the Forsaken Riders spread like wildfire through the biker community. Rumors and speculations circulated about the mysterious figure who had appeared out of nowhere to challenge one of the most feared gangs in the region. Some said he was a former member of the Forsaken Riders, seeking revenge for a past betrayal. Others claimed he was a lone vigilante, dedicated to protecting the innocent from the predations of the lawless. But no one knew for sure who he was or where he had come from. As for Sophia, she found herself drawn to Gabriel in a way she had never experienced before. There was something about his quiet strength, his unwavering sense of justice, that spoke to her on a deep, primal level. Together, they rode the highways and byways of the desert, their bond growing stronger with each passing mile. Gabriel taught Sophia the ways of the road, showing her how to read the signs and navigate the dangers that lurked around every bend. And as they rode, they talked, sharing stories of their pasts and their hopes for the future. Sophia learned that Gabriel had once been a part of a different kind of gang, one dedicated to helping those in need and fighting against the forces of oppression and injustice. But he had grown disillusioned with the way the world worked, with the corruption and greed that seemed to infect every corner of society. And so he had struck out on his own, determined to make a difference in his own way. As the days turned into weeks, Sophia and Gabriel found themselves drawn into a web of intrigue and danger, as they uncovered a plot by the Forsaken Riders to take control of the entire region through a network of illegal activities and brutal intimidation. They knew that they had to act fast, before it was too late. But they also knew that they were up against a powerful and ruthless enemy, one that would stop at nothing to achieve its goals. And so, as the sun set on another day in the desert, Sophia and Gabriel steeled themselves for the battle that lay ahead, knowing that the fate of countless innocent lives hung in the balance. The Forsaken Riders may have been beaten in their initial confrontation with Gabriel and Sophia, but they were far from defeated. In the shadows of their clubhouse, Raven and his top lieutenants plotted their revenge, their eyes glinting with malice and hatred. They knew that they couldn't take on Gabriel directly, not after the humiliating defeat they had suffered at his hands. But they also knew that there were other ways to strike at him, to make him pay for his interference in their affairs. And so they set their sights on Sophia, seeing her as the key to getting to Gabriel. They began to stalk her movements, watching her every move, waiting for the right moment to strike. But Sophia was no easy target. She had learned much from Gabriel in their time together, and she was determined not to let herself be caught off guard again. As the tension mounted, Sophia and Gabriel found themselves drawn into a dangerous game of cat and mouse, with the Forsaken Riders always one step behind them, waiting for their chance to strike. They knew that they had to find a way to turn the tables on their enemies, to expose their criminal activities and bring them to justice once and for all. But they also knew that they were up against a powerful and well-connected foe, one with deep ties to the corrupt authorities that ruled the region. And so they began to gather evidence, piecing together the puzzle of the Forsaken Riders' illegal empire one clue at a time. They reached out to old contacts and forged new alliances, building a network of support that stretched across the desert and beyond. But even as they made progress, the danger grew ever greater. The Forsaken Riders became more desperate, more willing to take risks in order to protect their interests. And Sophia and Gabriel knew that they were running out of time. As they rode through the night, the wind whipping at their faces and the stars shining overhead, they could feel the weight of their mission pressing down on them, the fate of so many lives resting on their shoulders. But they also knew that they had each other, and that together, they could face any challenge, overcome any obstacle. And so they rode on, their hearts full of hope and determination, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As the net began to close around the Forsaken Riders, Raven grew increasingly desperate. He knew that he had to act fast, before Sophia and Gabriel could gather enough evidence to bring his empire crashing down around him. And so he hatched a plan, a final, desperate gambit to take out his enemies once and for all. He would lure them into a trap, using Sophia as bait, and then he would strike, wiping them out in one fell swoop. But even as he set his plan in motion, Raven couldn't shake the feeling that he was playing with fire, that he was underestimating the strength and determination of his foes. Meanwhile, Sophia and Gabriel continued their investigations, piecing together the final pieces of the puzzle that would expose the Forsaken Riders' criminal activities to the world. They knew that they were close, that they were on the verge of a breakthrough that could change everything. But they also knew that they were in more danger than ever before, that their enemies would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. As they rode through the desert, the sun beating down on their backs and the wind whipping at their faces, Sophia and Gabriel could feel the tension building, the sense that something big was about to happen. And then, without warning, it did. The Forsaken Riders struck, their attack sudden and brutal. They ambushed Sophia and Gabriel on a lonely stretch of highway, their motorcycles roaring out of the darkness like a pack of hungry wolves. But Sophia and Gabriel were ready for them. They fought back with everything they had, their skills honed by months of training and experience. The battle was fierce and bloody, with no quarter given or asked. But in the end, it was Sophia and Gabriel who emerged victorious, their enemies lying broken and defeated at their feet. As the dust settled and the smoke cleared, Sophia and Gabriel knew that they had won a great victory, that they had struck a blow against the forces of evil that would be felt for years to come. But they also knew that their work was far from over, that there were still many battles to be fought and many challenges to be overcome. And so they rode on, their hearts full of hope and their spirits unbroken, ready to face whatever lay ahead, together. In the aftermath of their victory over the Forsaken Riders, Sophia and Gabriel found themselves at the center of a media firestorm. News of their exploits had spread like wildfire, and suddenly they were being hailed as heroes, as champions of justice in a world gone mad. But for Sophia and Gabriel, the attention was unwelcome. They had never sought fame or glory, only the chance to make a difference, to help those in need and to fight against the forces of oppression and injustice. And so they retreated from the spotlight, seeking solace in each other's company and in the quiet beauty of the desert. But even as they tried to distance themselves from the chaos of the outside world, they knew that they could not escape the responsibilities that came with their newfound status as heroes. And so they began to use their platform to raise awareness about the issues that mattered most to them, to speak out against corruption and abuse of power, and to inspire others to take up the fight for justice and equality. They traveled the country, speaking at rallies and conferences, sharing their stories and their vision for a better world. And everywhere they went, they were met with an outpouring of support and admiration, as people from all walks of life were touched by their message of hope and resilience. But even as they basked in the glow of their newfound fame, Sophia and Gabriel knew that they could never let their guard down, that there would always be those who sought to silence them, to crush their dreams of a better tomorrow. And so they remained vigilant, always ready to defend themselves and those they loved against any threat, no matter how great or small. As they rode through the night, the stars shining overhead and the wind at their backs, Sophia and Gabriel knew that they had found their calling, that they had been given a great gift and a great responsibility. And they knew that they would never stop fighting, never stop striving for a world where justice and compassion reigned supreme, where every person had the chance to live a life of dignity and purpose. For they were the guardians of the innocent, the champions of the downtrodden, and they would never rest until their work was done. As the weeks turned into months, Sophia and Gabriel found themselves drawn deeper and deeper into the world of activism and social justice. They met with leaders from all walks of life, from politicians and CEOs to grassroots organizers and community activists, all united in their desire to make the world a better place. But even as they worked tirelessly to build a movement for change, they knew that they could not do it alone. They needed the support and the strength of others, of all those who shared their vision of a more just and equitable society. And so they began to build a network of allies and supporters, a vast web of individuals and organizations dedicated to the cause of justice and equality. They reached out to biker clubs across the country, those who had once been their rivals but who now saw the value in their message of hope and unity. They forged alliances with civil rights groups and labor unions, with environmental activists and anti-poverty advocates, all working together towards a common goal. And as their movement grew, so too did the challenges they faced. There were those who sought to undermine their efforts, to sow discord and division among their ranks. There were those who used violence and intimidation to try to silence them, to crush their dreams of a better world. But Sophia and Gabriel would not be deterred. They knew that the road to justice was long and arduous, that there would be setbacks and obstacles at every turn. But they also knew that they had the strength and the courage to persevere, to keep fighting no matter how hard the battle became. And so they rode on, their hearts full of hope and their spirits unbroken, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They spoke out against injustice wherever they found it, whether it was in. Here is the continuation of the story. As their movement continued to grow and evolve, Sophia and Gabriel found themselves facing new challenges and opportunities at every turn. They knew that they had to stay focused on their mission, to keep pushing forward even in the face of adversity and resistance. And so they poured their hearts and souls into their work, spending long hours on the road, speaking at rallies and meetings, organizing protests and demonstrations. They met with community leaders and grassroots activists, listening to their stories and their struggles, learning from their experiences and their wisdom. But even as they worked tirelessly to build a better world, Sophia and Gabriel never forgot the importance of taking care of themselves and each other. They knew that the fight for justice could be all-consuming, that it could take a toll on even the strongest and most determined of fighters. And so they made sure to carve out time for rest and reflection, for moments of joy and connection amidst the chaos and the turmoil. They took long rides through the desert, watching the sun rise and set over the vast, open landscape. They shared meals and stories around campfires, laughing and singing and dreaming of a brighter future. And always, they had each other, a bond that had been forged in the heat of battle and the depths of adversity. They knew that they could rely on each other, no matter what challenges or obstacles they faced, that together they were stronger than they could ever be alone. As they rode through the night, the stars shining overhead and the wind at their backs, Sophia and Gabriel knew that they were part of something bigger than themselves, that they were part of a movement that would change the world. And they knew that they would never stop fighting, never stop pushing forward, until justice and equality were a reality for all. But even as Sophia and Gabriel's movement continued to grow and gain momentum, they knew that they were up against powerful forces that would stop at nothing to maintain the status quo. The corrupt authorities who had long turned a blind eye to the criminal activities of the Forsaken Riders and other biker gangs were now starting to take notice of Sophia and Gabriel's efforts. They saw the growing support for their cause as a threat to their own power and influence, and they began to take steps to undermine and discredit them at every turn. They launched smear campaigns in the media, painting Sophia and Gabriel as dangerous radicals and anarchists. They used their connections in law enforcement to harass and intimidate their supporters, to try to break the spirit of the movement before it could gain too much traction. But Sophia and Gabriel refused to be intimidated. They knew that the truth was on their side, that they had the support of countless ordinary people who had been oppressed and marginalized for too long. And so they continued to speak out, to organize and mobilize, to build a grassroots movement that could not be ignored or silenced. They used social media and alternative news outlets to get their message out, to counter the lies and distortions of the mainstream media. They staged peaceful protests and sit-ins, using the power of nonviolent resistance to draw attention to their cause and to put pressure on those in power to listen and to act. And slowly but surely, they began to see results. More and more people were joining their movement, from all walks of life and all corners of the country. Elected officials and community leaders were starting to take notice, to see the value in their message of hope and change. But Sophia and Gabriel knew that they still had a long way to go, that the road ahead would be filled with challenges and obstacles at every turn. And so they rode on, their hearts full of determination and their spirits unbroken, ready to face whatever lay ahead, together. As the final showdown with the corrupt authorities and the remnants of the Forsaken Riders loomed on the horizon, Sophia and Gabriel knew that they had to be prepared for anything. They had spent months gathering evidence and building alliances, laying the groundwork for a decisive confrontation that would determine the fate of their movement and the future of justice in the region. And now, as they rode towards the Capitol building where the final battle would take place, they could feel the weight of history on their shoulders, the hopes and dreams of countless ordinary people riding with them. They knew that they were up against a formidable foe, one that would stop at nothing to protect its own power and privilege. But they also knew that they had the strength of their convictions, the courage of their hearts, and the support of a growing movement that would not be denied. As they approached the Capitol steps, they were met by a sea of supporters, a vast crowd of ordinary people who had come from all over the country to stand with them in this moment of truth. And there, at the head of the crowd, stood the leaders of the corrupt regime, flanked by the last remaining members of the Forsaken Riders, their faces twisted with hatred and fear. For a moment, the two sides stood facing each other, the tension thick in the air. And then, with a roar of defiance, Sophia and Gabriel charged forward, their supporters surging with them like a wave. The battle was fierce and bloody, with no quarter given or asked. But in the end, it was the power of the people that won the day, the strength of a movement that could not be stopped. As the corrupt leaders were led away in chains and the Forsaken Riders lay broken and defeated, Sophia and Gabriel knew that they had won a great victory, that they had struck a blow for justice that would be felt for generations to come. But they also knew that their work was far from over, that there were still many battles to be fought and many challenges to be overcome. And so they rode on, their hearts full of hope and their spirits unbroken, ready to lead their movement forward into a brighter future. In the aftermath of their victory at the Capitol, Sophia and Gabriel found themselves at the center of a new world, one where the old order had been swept away and a new era of justice and equality was beginning to take shape. They were hailed as heroes, as the leaders of a revolution that had changed the course of history. And yet, they knew that they could not rest on their laurels, that the work of building a better world was only just beginning. And so they set to work, using their newfound influence and authority to push for real, lasting change. They met with lawmakers and policy experts, working to craft new laws and regulations that would protect the rights of the marginalized and the oppressed. They traveled the country, speaking at rallies and town halls, sharing their vision of a world where every person had the chance to live a life of dignity and purpose. And always, they remained true to their roots, to the values and the principles that had guided them from the very beginning. They never forgot the importance of grassroots organizing, of building power from the bottom up. They continued to work with community leaders and activists, listening to their stories and their struggles, learning from their experiences and their wisdom. And as the years passed, they watched with pride as their movement continued to grow and evolve, as new leaders emerged to take up the fight for justice and equality. They knew that there would always be challenges and obstacles to overcome, that the road to a better world was long and winding. But they also knew that they had the strength and the courage to persevere, to keep fighting no matter how hard the battle became. And so they rode on, their hearts full of hope and their spirits unbroken, ready to face whatever lay ahead, together. As Sophia and Gabriel entered the twilight of their lives, they could look back on a lifetime of struggle and sacrifice, of victories won and losses endured. They had seen the world change in ways they could never have imagined, had played a part in shaping the course of history itself. And yet, they knew that their work was not finished, that there was still so much more to be done. They had always known that the fight for justice was not a sprint but a marathon, that it would take generations to build the kind of world they had always dreamed of. And so they began to pass the torch to a new generation of leaders, to those who would carry on the work they had begun so many years ago. They mentored young activists and organizers, sharing with them the lessons they had learned and the wisdom they had gained over a lifetime of struggle. They used their platform to amplify the voices of those who had been silenced for too long, to shine a light on the injustices that still plagued their society. And always, they remained a source of inspiration and hope, a reminder that change was possible, that a better world was within reach. As they rode off into the sunset, Sophia and Gabriel knew that they had left behind a legacy that would endure long after they were gone. They had shown the world that ordinary people had the power to change the course of history, to build a world based on justice and equality for all. And they knew that their spirit would live on, in the hearts and minds of all those who had been touched by their message of hope and resilience. For they were the guardians of the dream, the keepers of the flame, and their light would never be extinguished. In the years that followed, the world continued to change and evolve, but the legacy of Sophia and Gabriel endured. Their story became a legend, passed down from generation to generation, a reminder of the power of ordinary people to change the world. And everywhere, their spirit could be felt, in the countless acts of kindness and compassion that echoed across the land, in the unbreakable bonds of community and solidarity that held people together in times of darkness and despair. Their message of hope and resilience had taken root in the hearts of millions, had inspired a new generation of leaders to take up the fight for justice and equality. And as the world faced new challenges and new struggles, as the forces of oppression and injustice continued to rear their ugly heads, the example of Sophia and Gabriel shone like a beacon in the night. For they had shown that no obstacle was too great to overcome, no dream too big to achieve, if only people had the courage and the determination to stand together and fight for what was right. And so, as the sun rose on a new day and a new era, the spirit of Sophia and Gabriel lived on, a testament to the enduring power of love and compassion, of hope and resilience in the face of adversity. For they had been the guardians of the innocent, the champions of the downtrodden, and their legacy would endure for generations to come, a shining example of what was possible when ordinary people dared to dream of a better world.